Hi, my friends. Today I want to present you a new story. Enjoy watching it.
I stood at the kitchen sink, my swollen belly brushing against the edge as I scrubbed the last of the dinner plates. The house was silent except for the faint hum of the refrigerator, a stark contrast to the chaos that often erupted when Job was home. It had been like this for months, ever since I hit the third trimester. Job had become a phantom in our home, present in body but absent in spirit. The sun had just set, casting long shadows across the kitchen floor. I dried my hands on a dish towel and waddled over to the living room, where Job's jacket was carelessly thrown over the back of the couch. He had come home, dropped his things and left again without so much as a hello. My heart ached with the familiar sting of neglect. I sank onto the couch, my mind wandering back to the early days of our relationship. Job had been attentive, loving, and full of promises, but those days felt like a lifetime ago. Now he was distant, preoccupied with his work and his parents, leaving me to navigate the pregnancy alone. "Shannon, you need to stop dwelling on the past," I whispered to myself, rubbing my belly. "Focus on the baby. That's what matters now." As if on cue, my phone buzzed with a text from Megan, my 52-year-old girlfriend. She had been my rock through all of this, offering advice and support when I needed it most. "Megan, how are you holding up, dear? Need anything?" I smiled, her kindness warming my heart. I quickly typed back, "I'm managing, but thank you. Just finished dinner. Job's out again." Within seconds, her reply came, "Want me to come over for tea? I can bring some cookies." The thought of her company was tempting, but I didn't want to be a burden. "No, it's okay. I'll be fine. Thank you, Megan." I put my phone down and sighed. The emptiness of the house felt heavier at night. The ticking clock seemed to mock me, each second a reminder of Job's absence. A loud bang from the front door startled me. Job stumbled in, his face flushed from drinking. He glanced at me, his eyes narrowing. "Why are you just sitting there?" "I just finished cleaning up. How was your evening?" I asked, trying to keep my tone neutral. "Fine," he grunted, slumping onto the couch. "Did you get the groceries?" I hesitated. "I was going to, but I thought you might pick them up on your way home. I texted you earlier." Job's expression darkened. "I didn't see your text. Why didn't you just go yourself?" I felt a surge of frustration. "Job, I'm 9 months pregnant. It's hard for me to carry heavy bags." He waved his hand dismissively. "Excuses. You're not helpless just because you're pregnant." I took a deep breath, trying to keep my composure. "I'm doing my best, Job. It would help if you could support me a little." "Support you? I'm the one working all day. What more do you want from me?" His voice rose, filling the room with tension. "I want you to be here, to help with the house, to care about this pregnancy," I said, my voice breaking. "I feel like I'm doing this alone." He scoffed. "You're overreacting. Just stop complaining and do your part." Tears welled up in my eyes, but I blinked them away. "Fine," I whispered, turning away from him. "I'll go get the groceries now." I grabbed my coat and headed for the door, my heart heavy with the weight of his words. As I stepped outside, the cool night air hit my face, mingling with the tears that had finally escaped. I trudged to the nearby store, each step a reminder of the loneliness that had taken root in my life. At the store, I moved through the aisles mechanically, picking up the items we needed. My mind was a storm of emotions, swirling with anger, sadness, and a deep sense of betrayal. How had we come to this? Where had the love gone? As I reached the checkout counter, I felt a tap on my shoulder. I turned to see Mrs. Hensley, an elderly neighbor who often chatted with me when I walked by her house. "Shannon, dear, what are you doing out so late?" she asked, her eyes filled with concern. I forced a smile. "Just getting some groceries. How are you, Mrs. Hensley?" "I'm well. But you shouldn't be out here alone at this hour, especially in your condition. Where's that husband of yours?" Her tone was gentle but probing. I swallowed hard. "He's at home. I just needed to get a few things." She shook her head, a knowing look in her eyes. "Well, if you ever need anything, you know where to find me. Don't hesitate to ask for help, Shannon." "Thank you, Mrs. Hensley. I appreciate it," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. I finished my shopping and made my way back home, the bags feeling heavier with each step. When I walked in, Job was already asleep on the couch, the TV blaring some mindless show. I put the groceries away in silence, my mind numb. As I stood in the dimly lit kitchen, I felt a sharp pain in my lower back. I winced, placing a hand on my belly. "Not now, little one," I murmured. "Just a few more weeks." I made my way to the bedroom, sinking onto the bed with a sigh. The weight of the day's events pressed down on me, and I felt a wave of exhaustion wash over me. But as I closed my eyes, a flicker of hope sparked in my heart. Megan's words echoed in my mind, "You deserve better than this." The next morning, I woke to the sound of Job's voice, grumbling about something in the kitchen. I rolled out of bed, my body protesting with every movement. As I entered the kitchen, I saw Job staring at an empty coffee pot. "Where's my coffee?" he snapped. "I haven't made it yet." "I was just about to," I said, moving towards the coffee maker. "Well, hurry up. I'm late for work," he barked. I clenched my jaw, biting back a retort. Instead, I focused on making the coffee, my mind racing. I couldn't keep living like this, in a constant state of tension and neglect. Something had to change. That evening, Megan came over, her presence a soothing balm to my frazzled nerves. We sat in the living room, sipping tea and talking about everything and nothing. As I shared my frustrations, Megan listened patiently, her eyes filled with empathy. "Shannon, you need to take care of yourself. You can't keep sacrificing your well-being for someone who doesn't appreciate you," she said softly. "I know, Megan. It's just complicated. I keep hoping he'll change, but it feels like I'm losing myself in the process," I admitted, tears brimming in my eyes. She reached out and squeezed my hand. "You're stronger than you think, dear, and you're not alone. You have me and your parents, and soon you'll have your beautiful baby. Focus on that." Her words gave me a glimmer of strength. For the first time in a long while, I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, I could find a way out of this darkness. As Megan left that night, I stood at the doorway, watching her walk down the path. The night was quiet, the stars twinkling above. I placed a hand on my belly, feeling the gentle flutter of my baby's movements. "We'll get through this," I whispered. "We'll find our way." But little did I know, the storm was far from over, and the days ahead would test my resolve in ways I couldn't yet imagine. The morning sun streamed through the bedroom window, casting a warm glow on the walls. I rubbed my eyes and turned to see Job's side of the bed empty, the sheets still rumpled from where he had slept. My heart sank. Another day without any sign of the man I once knew. I swung my legs over the side of the bed, the weight of my pregnancy making every movement a challenge. As I shuffled to the kitchen, I heard Job's voice coming from the living room. "No, Mom, I told you I'll be there," he was saying. "Yeah, I'll bring Shannon too, don't worry." I froze in the doorway, my stomach twisting in knots. I hadn't heard anything about a trip. Job ended the call and looked up, finally noticing me. "Oh, you're up," he said casually, as if we were just any other couple having a normal conversation. "We're going to my parents' house for a few days." I blinked, trying to process his words. "What? When?" "Tomorrow," he said, turning back to the TV. "They're expecting us." "But Job, I'm due any day now." "I can't go on a trip," I said, my voice trembling. He sighed, rubbing his temples. "You're not sick, Shannon. You're just pregnant. You can rest in the car." I felt a surge of anger. This isn't just about being uncomfortable. What if I go into labor? He shrugged. "Then we'll deal with it. My parents are expecting us." Tears pricked at my eyes. "Why didn't you talk to me about this?" "I'm talking to you now, aren't I?" he snapped. "Just pack your bags." I bit my lip, fighting back the tears. "Fine," I whispered, turning away. The rest of the day passed in a blur. I tried to keep busy, packing a bag half-heartedly, but my mind was elsewhere. Megan texted me to check in, and I briefly considered telling her about the trip, but I didn't want to worry her. That evening, as I prepared dinner, I felt a sharp pain in my lower back. I gasped, gripping the counter for support. The pain passed, but it left me feeling uneasy. I knew the signs of labor were starting, but I didn't want to believe it was happening now. Job came home late, reeking of alcohol. He barely acknowledged me as he collapsed onto the couch. I finished dinner and set a plate in front of him, but he just grunted and turned on the TV. I watched him for a moment, my heart heavy with disappointment. "Job, I think I might be in labor," I said softly. He glanced at me, his eyes bleary. "You always think you're in labor. You'll be fine." "But what if?" "Enough, Shannon," he shouted. "I don't want to hear it." I flinched, the tears finally spilling over. I turned and fled to the bedroom, my heart pounding. I lay on the bed, clutching my belly, and prayed for the pain to go away. The next morning, I woke to a sharp, insistent pain. My heart raced as I realized my water had broken. I struggled to sit up, calling out for Job. Job, I need you. My water just broke. He stumbled into the room, half asleep. What are you yelling about? My water broke. We need to go to the hospital. He groaned, rubbing his eyes. Now, seriously? We're supposed to leave for my parents' house. Job, please. I begged, tears streaming down my face. He stared at me for a moment, then shook his head. You'll be fine. Just call an ambulance or something. I have to go. I watched in disbelief as he grabbed his bag and walked out the door. Job, wait. Don't leave me. But he was already gone. I fumbled for my phone, my hands shaking. I dialed Megan's number, praying she would pick up. Shannon. What's wrong? Megan's voice was filled with concern. My water broke and Job left. I need to get to the hospital, I sobbed. I'm on my way. Stay calm, okay? I'll be there soon, she said, her voice steady. Minutes felt like hours as I waited, the pain intensifying with each contraction. Finally, I heard a knock at the door. Megan rushed in, her face pale with worry. Oh, Shannon, I'm so sorry, she said, wrapping her arms around me. Let's get you to the hospital. She helped me to the car, her presence a comfort in the midst of the chaos. As we drove, I focused on her voice, trying to stay calm. We're almost there, Shannon. Just breathe, she said, squeezing my hand. We arrived at the hospital, and the staff quickly took over, whisking me away to a delivery room. Megan stayed by my side, holding my hand as the contractions came faster and harder. Thank you for being here, I whispered, my voice trembling with pain and gratitude. I wouldn't be anywhere else, she said, her eyes shining with unshed tears. You're going to be okay, Shannon. You're strong. Hours passed in a blur of pain and exhaustion. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, I heard the sweet sound of my baby's cry. The nurse placed the tiny bundle in my arms, and I looked down at my daughter, my heart swelling with love. She's perfect, Megan whispered, tears streaming down her face. I nodded, unable to speak. In that moment, all the pain and heartache faded away, replaced by a profound sense of joy. As the nurses wheeled me to a recovery room, I felt a surge of relief, but that relief was short-lived. My phone buzzed on the bedside table, and I saw Job's name on the screen. Do you want to answer that? Megan asked gently. I shook my head. No, not now. She nodded, understanding. You just focus on your baby. We'll deal with everything else later. I cradled my daughter, her tiny fingers wrapped around mine. Despite the turmoil of the past few days, I felt a glimmer of hope. I wasn't alone. I had Megan, and now I had my beautiful baby girl. Together we would face whatever came next. The days following the birth of my daughter, Emily, were a whirlwind of emotions and sleepless nights. Megan stayed by my side, a pillar of strength, while Job's absence loomed like a dark cloud. My parents visited often, bringing meals and helping with Emily, their support a balm to my wounded heart. One afternoon, as I sat in the rocking chair nursing Emily, Megan burst into the room, her face flushed with excitement. Shannon, you won't believe this, she said, holding her phone up. What is it? I asked, my curiosity piqued. She handed me the phone, and I saw a video playing. It was footage of Job, taken by a neighbor's security camera, shouting at me and leaving me behind as I clutched my pregnant belly. The video had gone viral, with thousands of views and comments condemning his behavior. Oh my God, I whispered, my heart racing. How did this happen? A friend of mine saw the video and recognized you, Megan explained. She shared it with me, and it's all over social media now. People are furious with Job. I scrolled through the comments, my emotions a mix of anger and vindication. Strangers were rallying to my side, their words of support and encouragement lifting my spirits. For the first time in a long while, I felt a glimmer of hope. Later that day, as I was feeding Emily, my phone rang. It was my lawyer, Sarah. Shannon, we need to talk, she said, her tone serious. I've seen the video, and I think we have a strong case for divorce and full custody of Emily. Job's behavior is indefensible. I agree, I said, my resolve hardening. What do I need to do? First, we'll file for an emergency hearing to ensure Job has no contact with you or Emily until this is resolved, Sarah explained. We'll also push for a restraining order. Thank you, Sarah, I said, relief flooding through me. I don't know what I'd do without you and Megan. The next few weeks were a blur of legal proceedings and media attention. Job's employers, a family-oriented company, were appalled by his actions and swiftly terminated his employment. Public opinion turned against him, and he found himself isolated and disgraced. One evening, as I was putting Emily to bed, my phone buzzed with a message from Job. Please, Shannon, can we talk? He had written. I'm sorry. I need to see Emily. I showed the message to Megan, who frowned. He has some nerve, doesn't he? I don't want to talk to him, I said, my voice firm. Not after everything he's done. Then don't, Megan said. Focus on Emily and yourself. We've got your back. As the legal battle raged on, I found solace in my growing bond with Megan and her family. Her son Alex was a kind and gentle soul, always ready with a smile or a helping hand. He quickly became a fixture in our lives, offering support and friendship during the most trying times. One evening, after a particularly exhausting day in court, Alex came over with takeout and a bottle of wine. We sat on the porch, the cool night air a welcome relief. How are you holding up? He asked, his eyes filled with concern. It's been tough, I admitted. But I'm grateful for everyone's support. I don't know what I'd do without you and Megan. Alex smiled, his gaze softening. We're happy to help, Shannon. You and Emily are family now. His words warmed my heart, and I felt a flicker of something I hadn't felt in a long time, hope. As the weeks turned into months, the legal proceedings came to a close. The court ruled in my favor, granting me full custody of Emily and a restraining order against Job. The relief was overwhelming, and for the first time I felt like I could breathe again. One afternoon, as I was sitting in the garden with Emily, Megan, and Alex, I received a call from Sarah. Shannon, it's done, she said, her voice triumphant. The divorce is finalized and Job's appeal was denied. You're free. Tears of joy streamed down my face. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you so much. Take care of yourself, Shannon, she said warmly, and enjoy this new chapter of your life. As I hung up, Megan and Alex looked at me expectantly. It's over, I said, my voice shaking with emotion. We're free. Megan pulled me into a tight hug, her eyes filled with tears. I'm so proud of you, Shannon. You've come so far. Alex smiled, his eyes shining with pride. You did it, Shannon. You're amazing. As I looked around at the people who had become my family, I felt a deep sense of gratitude. One evening, as the sun set over the horizon, casting a golden glow over the garden, Alex took my hand in his. Shannon, he said softly, his eyes meeting mine. I know this has been a difficult journey, but I want you to know that I'm here for you, always. Tears filled my eyes as I squeezed his hand. Thank you, Alex. I couldn't have done this without you. He smiled, his gaze tender. We're in this together, Shannon, for Emily and for us. As we stood there, hand in hand, watching the sun dip below the horizon, I felt a sense of peace settle over me. The past was behind us, and a new beginning stretched out before us, filled with hope and promise.